More homeowners are coming forward saying State Farm is denying water leak damage claims. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Laurel in for Carlo Cicchetto.
I'm Marcella Lee. CBS 8 is working for you to find out if this is a pattern by the insurance company. Our David Gottfredson spoke with a homeowner in Chula Vista who says State Farm denied his claim, even though he's been a customer with the company for 30 years.
Well, it was determined that the leak was right here on the drywall. One little pipe that was just drip, 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 drip.
A hot water pipe in the wall is the cause of what Mark Matthews estimates to be $20,000 in water damage to his home of 25 years in Chula Vista. On April 21st, his wife discovered the dining room was soaked.
She did this, squish, squish.
The couple called in a water damage company and furniture movers. Then the State Farm insurance adjuster showed up.
He just said straight to our face, no, we're not covering this because it's a continuous leak, which State Farm does not cover. They'll just cover a sudden leak.
Mark was shocked because they never noticed any water leaking in the past.
Even the report from the plumber said, you know, it's a sudden pipe burst, whatever, but no, he wouldn't have any of that.
Mark emailed CBS 8 working for you after we aired a similar story on a homeowner in University City, also denied by State Farm for a leaky roof. I reached out to a consumer advocate at United Policyholders.
We are seeing a pattern of State Farm denying water damage claims on the grounds that it was a gradual seepage or continuous leakage, and that they are using that argument to avoid paying for what we believe are covered losses.
Amy Bach says if attorneys find out State Farm is unfairly denying water damage claims, there could be a lawsuit.
It may be at some point that a consumer like this gentleman would end up being a plaintiff in a class action suit with a whole bunch of other people who've been similarly harmed.
This carpet is history.
Yeah, unfortunately.
State Farm says it can't talk about specifics of a claim due to customer privacy, and that, quote, State Farm seeks to provide our customers all benefits to which they are entitled. We welcome additional information that may help us identify any applicable benefit under the policy.
State Farm is not looking out for their customers. They're just looking out for their bottom line.
We'll keep tabs on the situation here in Chula Vista, and we'll also let you know if we get any more information about a possible class action lawsuit. Working for you, David Gottfredson, CBS 8.
A lot of homeowners can relate to, David. Thank you. The Sheriff's Department is investigating a shooting that killed a 17-year-old late last night in San Marcos. Around 11:30, deputies say it happened in a parking lot of Los Velocitos Boulevard near the San Marcos Boulevard 78 off-ramp. Investigators say a vehicle pulled over and a person got out and shot at the group the teen was in. The department hasn't said if they have a suspect. They also haven't released the vehicle description or a motive. The teen's identity has also not been released.
Today, the defense in the double murder trial of a former TikTok influencer had a chance to cross-examine one of the main detectives assigned to the case.
Ali Abulaban is accused of killing his wife and another man inside an East Village high-rise in 2021. CBS 8's Shannon Handy was inside the courtroom and has the latest.
That cross-examination took up the majority of today's testimony. We also heard from a toxicologist who confirmed Boulayn tested positive for cocaine hours after his arrest.
This sample tested positive for the category of cocaine and metabolites.
Throughout this trial, there's been evidence indicating Ali Boulayn often used cocaine. While a toxicologist confirmed the drug was in his system the day of the shooting, she could not answer whether it played a role or not.
You cannot tell us if the cocaine found in Mr. Boulayn's system had any effect on him whatsoever on October 21st, 2021, correct?
Not without reviewing the circumstances of the case.
Prosecutors say in the morning of the shooting, Boulayn returned to the apartment he and his wife Anna once shared and activated an app on their 5-year-old daughter's iPad that allowed him to monitor live audio. While listening to the app later that day, Boulayn overheard his wife and Rayburn Barone, a man he suspected she had been seen, talking and laughing. That's when police say he drove to the complex and opened fire on the victims as they sat on a couch. A neighbor's Nest camera captured audio of the shooting. Boulayn's defense doesn't deny he committed the killings, but argue he wasn't thinking rationally due to the collapse of his marriage and the effect it had on his mental health. During cross-examination with former San Diego police homicide detective Ricardo Escalante, the defense asked about cell phone data he analyzed, including whether text messages between the victims proved they were having a sexual relationship, despite Anna telling her husband she would never have an affair.
There were no videos of them having sex or pictures or anything like that. However, the conversations within the messages were indicative of that.
The defense argues it was Boulayn's suspicion of that relationship which fueled his rage, some of which we heard during audio messages he left Anna just days before the killings.
I am the best man you ever met, and you're the dumbest I ever devoted my life to.
Late this afternoon, the defense asked the judge to drop the first-degree murder charges, saying what happened was a crime of passion and should instead be considered manslaughter. The judge denied that request.
The trial will resume on Monday. Boulayn is expected to testify. Reporting from downtown, I'm Shanna Handy for CBS 8.
Thanks, Shannon. A so-called hoarder home in Ocean View Hills is set to get professionally cleaned for a second time. We've been working for you on this case for months. Homeowner Lisa Golden was back in court today. The home had an inspection back in March. Photos show that trash at the home was piled up 4 feet high. Golden says her home was damaged and stolen from when the receiver went in to clean it up the first time in 2021. But she hasn't provided any proof. She also blames her dog for this mess.
I've cleaned up the mess the dog made. I cleaned up my mess. I cleaned up the bathrooms. Everything's mopped and scrubbed. Before I was sucked into the federal litigation that I prevailed on, I used to keep my house spick and span.
Golden says she wants the judge to go to her house and inspect it himself. The judge has not answered that request. The San Diego Unified School District has canceled the majority of its teacher layoff notices. You may remember 234 preliminary layoff notices were issued back in March. The district says it has been able to rescind 225 of those notices after taking an updated look at its financial situation and identifying which teachers are retiring or resigning. The district is now working with principals to finalize staffing plans for the next school year.
Classes at UC Irvine were remote today after a tense day of arrests and the breakup of a pro-Palestinian encampment. Police declared an unlawful assembly yesterday when protesters surrounded a lecture hall. 50 people were arrested, including 2 who identified themselves as faculty members. Officers and deputies from more than half a dozen agencies responded to the protest. UCI Chancellor Howard Gilman called it a sad day for the university. Meantime, a group of protesters at UC Berkeley takes over a condemned and abandoned building on campus there. Tents are set up around the building and signs and banners are hung in windows. Now, despite flying Palestinian flags, the group claims they're different than the Free Palestine group that had an encampment on campus for weeks.
Graduation season is upon us, and many are getting ready to enter the workforce. But one academic says it's not so much about your GPA, but about recognizing who you are that can make you stand out with potential employers.
Makes sense. CBS 8's Abby Black joins us live from the University of San Diego. Abby, there's something called cultural capital that people can have. Explain that to us.
Anna, when we're talking about cultural capital in this sense, it applies to college students who are about to enter the workforce and how they can capitalize on their background or their culture, including their perceived disadvantages, to achieve success. But really, anyone can take these lessons and find their source of capital.
Walking the halls of the Shiley Marcos School of Engineering at the University of San Diego, there are a few inspirational messages on the white walls, but as you walk into Dr. Rhonda Hartley's colorful office,
come on in,
you immediately feel like you got this.
Bonnie, we got to keep the kids motivated and inspired, because you know what? It's all going to work itself out in the end, because it will.
That will is what Dr. Hartley helps students see before they enter the workforce. She's the Assistant Dean of Student Engagement and Inclusive Excellence at USD and wants students to recognize their skills outside of the classroom.
You are not just your major. You are a whole person with a whole lot of skills and gifts and abilities that any employer would value. And so your major and your degree complement who you already are.
She calls it cultural capital and knows a thing or two about it. She got a PhD studying social assets and coaches soon-to-be graduates to see that wealth isn't just about money.
We all have it. Everyone has cultural capital.
She says that you can channel your familial capital, whether you had a positive upbringing or you faced adversity. How you navigated those experiences can make you stand out with a potential employer.
That's how I see my job, is to pour into these students and to make sure they know they are needed in the workplace, regardless of background, hardships, all of that. You are enough, and you are needed in the world of work. It's just the truth.
Harley says as graduates of any background prepare to enter the workforce, the wealth students earn is when they recognize their source of capital.
We are all wealthy. We all hold capital, every single one of us. It's just a matter of how you choose to see it, talk about it, write about it. And if you don't know how to do that, you can come talk to Rhonda.
Rhonda is that pep talk that we need in our life. Once I have this story posted to CBS8.com, I will have her entire interview embedded in this story. I also want to add that she says that you can look to your friends or colleagues and peers and ask, what makes me? Why would someone want to choose me to be on their team, and why they wouldn't? She says both of them can contribute to our cultural capital. Marcella?
I love that. That's such a great idea, Abby. Ask the people that know you best to tell you about your wonderful qualities. For many entering the workforce, it is about networking. What did you ask Dr. Harley about that, tapping into your network?
Well, Marcella, she says, first, we need to make sure that our social media employment sites like LinkedIn are up to date. And she said, don't be afraid to reach out to those that are in our network, including alums from our college. She says, we were all there at one point in our lives and we were anxious to graduate and enter the workforce. And we all may have a great piece of advice. So please do not hesitate to reach out to those in your network. You never know what job you'll find and what kind of advice you can take when you're working with others.
You hear it all the time. You just need one connection to lead to so many opportunities. Thanks so much, Abby.
That's really good information, really good advice.
It is, and it's exciting.
Very exciting. And people do like to help each other, right?
They do, yes.
It's a special day for all of us here at CBS 8, and we want to share it with you tonight.
Coming up in our second half hour, CBS 8's Jeff Zevely and photojournalist Scott Hall, who's been here 40 years, by the way, went into our archives for our 75th anniversary. We'll take a look back at our station's rich history right here in San Diego.
We had sunshine this afternoon. Now, we saw that especially across inland areas. It was still kind of stubborn to entirely clear closer towards North County coastline. But what does the weekend have in store for us? Those details coming up. Anna?
And up next, the California county where the median home price is now above $2 million.
Congratulations to CBS 8. San Diego's first TV station celebrates 75 years.